Hi, I'm Florence, Dowrick, the MajorTim.space 2022 to 2023 age 7 to 9 young ambassador.
I'm Myle Faraz, the MajorTim.space 2022 to 2023 Achievement Young Ambassador. And also I have a little lion with me over here. His name's Rory. Hello.
And today we are interviewing Christine and Peter from LionAid. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yep. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Christine, and I'm one of the directors of LionAid. And here we have Peter, and he is also a director of LionAid. And we've been running this charity for quite a while, trying to save lions which are facing extinction in the wild.
Okay, I'll ask the first question. What makes lions so special to you?
Well, I have worked in Africa with lions for about 20 years. And I must say that they are my favorite animals. They are very, very special because they are incredibly intelligent. They are amazing in terms of their family life. And they sort of control the whole ecosystem in which they live.
Myle, could you ask the next question?
Who established this charity and why was it established?
Well, originally I established the charity, and then I went out to, and the reason I did that is I went out to Africa and I met Peter. He at the time was working as a lion researcher out in Botswana, and I found out from him how much trouble wild lions are in and how few we've got left, and the many problems that wild lions face. And nobody really knew about this. So I came back and I formed the charity, and now Peter came over and we run this charity together.
Do you get to spend any time with the lions, and how does that make you feel?
No, because lions, Peter, he'll talk to you in a second about when he was researching lions, but you don't really want to interfere with them because they need to be away from human beings. You can look at them from afar and you can do everything you can to conserve them, but getting up close and personal with a lion is not something we would ever recommend. They need to have their own space.
Is this charity successful with its aims and objectives?
Yes.
Yeah, we are, because what we're trying to do is many things. What we're trying to do is to ensure that the African governments, where most, in the countries where most of the lions live, give them enough space and give the lions enough space to live in. And what we're also trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the people. Now, Myle, you've got that lion right next to you there, but some people have to live with wild lions almost as close as you have that lion. So, at night, a lot of people in Africa will hear a lion outside their house as close to that lion is to you. And so, what we're trying to do is to make sure that the people and the lions can live peacefully together.
So that's a big project that we're working on at the moment. I think you've probably seen some of the social media of that. And I think, as you know, we raised the first big lump of money to go and help this community by climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in July. And now we've started to help these people. So we put lights around their little villages. and the lights stop the lions coming in because they're frightened of lights. They think it's men with torches. And men with torches can also be men with guns, so they're not going to risk going in when they see lights flashing. So we've already equipped one little village with lights, and we've also put one light in each of the houses within that village. And I know this is going to be difficult for you to comprehend, but these people live in houses with no light whatsoever. So they live in the darkness. Once the sun goes down, everything is dark. And now we have put not only the lights around the outside of the village to stop the lions coming in, but every single one of those houses in the village has now got a light. And it's transforming their lives. And people like you, children like you, for the first time have been able to stay at home and read a book. They couldn't do that before. So big changes happening.
So Myle, for example, for you, I saw you before we started this. I saw you reading a book on mathematics, and yeah, there it is. Wonderful. Okay, but the children in the places where these lions roam, if they don't have lights in their house, they can never read a book. They go to school, and I tell you, they have to walk for how many?
2 hours.
2
hours in the morning to walk to school. They have got no food all day at school, and then they walk 2 hours home from school.
And when they get home, there's no lights. So until we came along with our program, which is trying to save lions and to help children, these kids had no lights to read any books.
And what made it worse is that when the lions were coming in and killing their cows, because that's what the lions will do if they see cows there, because they all keep cows and sheep and goats, that's their money gone, that's their wealth gone. And if they haven't got their cows, then they can't afford to feed each other. So even when the children were coming home, there was not enough money to give them any food. So this program that we're starting to run now is making a huge difference to families, children like you and their mums and dads, and going to school. There's a lot more we've got to do, a huge amount more we've got to do, but it started and people are thrilled with what we've already achieved.
How does climate change affect the lions?
Well, Florence, that's a really, really good question, okay? Because we know that climate change is affecting all of us. Whether we live here in the UK or whether we live in America or South America or Africa, climate change is having a huge, huge effect. And some places, like where we have this program in Kenya, are experiencing huge drought. There hasn't been any rain. Now listen to this. There hasn't been any rain for almost 4 years.
No way.
No. How come we got drenched on our holiday and they have no water for 4 years?
Well, you obviously weren't in that part of Africa, were you, for your holidays?
No.
No, I know, but climate change is affecting the amount of rainfall all around the world. And if you watch the news, you will see some places are getting flooded, other places have got no rainfall whatsoever.
But you see, the people that are living with these lions in Kenya, where we're having this project, like I said, they haven't seen almost any rainfall in 4 years. So what that means is, they have no grass to feed their cows. They have no water for their houses. They have nothing. Myle, consider this, all right? If you were a boy living in these areas in Kenya, one of the things that you would have to do is that every morning you would have to go out and you would roll a huge barrel of water from the tap, the one tap that they have, all the way back to your house. And rolling and rolling and rolling this big barrel of water, because these guys need the water for all sorts of things, but that water is so precious that what has to happen is that they roll these barrels of water to their house, because they don't have cars, they don't have taps in their houses. And so what they have to do is they have to rely on that barrel for cooking, a little bit of washing. I mean, these guys don't have showers. They don't have baths.
And once they've done all of that, they've then got 2 hours to walk to school. So, you're very lucky where you guys are. Anyway, next question.
Myle, would you like to ask the next one?
Do people donate as much towards wildlife charities compared to donating to domestic pet charities?
No. Well, not to us anyway. I mean, let me just say here that from all the fundraising we did this summer, which was quite a lot, we can equip 4 of these villages in this big community, and we have got to equip in total 58 villages. So you can see we've got a long way to go to get enough money in. And so, yes, it would be lovely to get more money coming through, but at the moment, it's hard work. But the more we talk about it and the more we speak to people like you guys, the more we get the message out.
I think that's a bit stupid, because like domestic pet charities, I don't think that they're as important as these endangered, majestic, fluffy big cats.
It would be lovely. I know it would be lovely if everybody felt the way you did. It would be marvelous, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
People are very keen on their dogs and cats that they have as pets at home, and they become very, very important to them. And they never get to see a lion other than perhaps one in a zoo. And then going back to one of the central reasons why LionAid was set up in the first place is that people just don't know. We've got less than 10,000 wild lions left now in the whole of Africa. That sounds a lot, but it's very, very few. So elephants, for example, they are considered to be endangered, and there are 400,000 of those left. Lions aren't even considered to be endangered, and we've got less than 10,000 lions left. People
They haven't been considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
No, they haven't, and it gets very political, this, but lions are always the last one to be considered, because some grown-ups still like to go out to Africa and shoot lions and bring their heads home to put on a plaque.
I'm going to email my uncle and auntie, because they're both Democrats, work at the United Nations.
Okay, tell them, let's help lions. Yeah, let's help lions.
What can be done to change the negative perceptions of lions in countries where lions are considered dangerous and a threat to livestock?
Oh, well, that's very good.
That's a really, really good question, Florence. That's a great question. And, unfortunately, years and years and years ago, before even I was born, Africa had lots of space available. And it had space for people, and it had space for wildlife. But now more and more, what we're seeing is that, the human population in Africa is growing. and the people want land. I mean, they want to grow their crops and they want to have their cows and things like that. And more, what is happening is that the wildlife is being forced into smaller and smaller places. And so, what happens is that the lions, um, because of pressure from people, who, by the way, also like to hunt the animals that the lions feed on, and reduce the numbers of the sort of natural prey that the lions have. And then, those people have cows and sheep and goats. And I'll tell you right now that a cow is probably the stupidest animal in Africa. Right?
I'm not really surprised to hear that.
I have a
Because-
friend in school. He's dyslexic and also he thinks he's a cow, which I recently found out is an actual mental issue.
Yeah, but you
He's a
see,
very smart kid.
these cows, see a lion and they don't run away. Like if a wildebeest or an impala or something like that, sees a lion, the first thing they do is they run away very quickly. A cow sees a lion and they go like this.
But I'll tell you a funny story here. Quite a heartwarming story. When we went out in July to Kenya and to Tanzania to climb that mountain, when we came down from that mountain, we took all the people that climbed with me over into Kenya, over to where this project is going to run, is now running. And we took letters from school children in the UK to give to the school children in the primary school there in Kenya. And they were letters that similar to the sort of letters that I think you two would write, which says we love lions and we want to see them survive. And these children in Kenya wrote back to the children in the UK and said, we hate lions, they're dangerous, and they kill our cows, because that's what they know. So now we've started to put lights in the houses. These children and their mums and dads are now thinking, actually, lions are good because lions have brought us light into our house. Now we can read at home. Now we maybe have some more food on the table because we're not losing so much money. So slowly, as we roll this project out, the feeling, the negative feeling that the people out there have for lions, hopefully is going to change to good feelings, that they're going to see that lions are good things because, people from far away, as they call us, are coming with solutions to make our lives better. So, we have to keep working on this.
The first thing that these people always tell us is that lions are very, very dangerous animals. And they are, all right? And lions kill our livestock, which they do. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that some way or another, we can have people living in a better relationship with lions than they have before. In other words, what we can do is we can provide those people with the means to keep the lions out of their areas with the blinking lights that lions don't like. And we can tell them that if you conserve, or if you don't go and kill lions after they've eaten your cow, you will get lights in your houses and things like that. So more and more people are starting to think, well, maybe lions are important to us. Maybe if we take care of lions, like Chris was saying, we can also take care of ourselves. and we can send our children to school. We can have lights in the houses at night, and we can sort of try and live together with lions. Now, this is not a program that is going to work immediately. What we're trying to do is to work with the people there and ask them, how well is this going? What is your input? What is your thought about how well these lights are working? Do you need more? Do you want to have better protection? What can we do listening to you, like now we are listening to you guys, Florence and Myle? What can we do to listen better and to make our programs better to conserve wildlife in Africa?
Yeah. Is the lion breeding in South Africa government sponsored?
Oh boy.
Oh, that's a question.
Oh boy. Myle. I don't. Right. Yes. Yes, it is. Right. But the thing is that long ago, South Africa decided that people were allowed to own wildlife. Now, in a lot of other African countries, people cannot own wildlife. Wildlife is wildlife that doesn't belong to anybody. But South Africa said, okay, you can own wildlife. So what they did in South Africa, oh, you're gone, Myle. There you are. What they did in South Africa is they said, right, you can own a lion. You can buy a lion. You can breed a lion. And that lion and all their offspring are now yours. So what happened in South Africa is that a lot of people said, okay, well, we'll own a lion. And then what happened is that once they owned those lions, what they did is they bred those lions and they made those lions available for trophy hunters, people coming to shoot these lions. And then what they did is they decided, okay, if we can own a lion, we can have people coming to our farms, and they took the little lion cubs and you can pet them, like that little lion that you have there, Myle. Okay, you can stroke it and all that kind of stuff if you pay money. And then they said, okay, what we're going to do also is when the lion dies, we're going to sell their bones and their teeth and their claws and things like that. So I think it was a big mistake on the part of the South African government to put the availability of people to own lions, given that these are wild animals, because immediately what happened is that people started breeding them and putting them in cages and using them for all sorts of purposes, except for using those lions that they have now in captivity, except for using those lions to maybe say, okay, we can breed them and then maybe we can return some of them into the wild, which is not possible.
So if you ever go to South Africa, don't go to one of these farms and give them money, because those lions live a very cruel, awful life, and they always end up dead because somebody will come along at the end and shoot them for money, and these farm owners make a lot of money out of it. So it's an industry that we're trying to, along with other charities, to get closed down, but it's difficult.
It's proving very, very difficult because there are probably, now listen to this, Myle, there are probably more lions in cages in South Africa than lions in the wild across the whole of South Africa and the whole of Africa itself, right? People think that there are more than 12,000 lions in cages in Africa, in South Africa, being used commercially.
To make money. To
To
make
make
money
money.
for the people that own them. Anyway, we'll move on. Next question.
Okay.
Well, I just have a little idea.
All right.
Okay.
In order to stop trophy hunting, you could create or promote adverts that make people ashamed of owning lion skins.
Oh, it's been done
Yeah,
many times.
Yeah.
And they've
We
even
have
been
tried and tried and tried to do this.
And there's been posters put up in the airports in South Africa warning people, but the government come and tear them down. They don't want people to know.
There's always going to be people, and most of them come from the United States. There's always going to be people who love to have a lion head hanging on their wall. And they will pay lots and lots of money. For example, if you want to go to Tanzania and shoot a lion, you have to have about 60,000 pounds just to shoot that lion. And there are loads and loads of people who still want to do this. They all know that, there's problems in terms of lion survival in the wild, but there's still lots and lots of people to do this. And one of the things that we're trying to do with the government here in England is to ask the government to say, stop the import of those trophies.
Don't let people bring those
Don't let people
heads.
bring the lion heads into the UK anymore. You can do this.
At the moment, it's legal. You can do it. But we've been trying for 10 years now to get the UK government to say no more. But we haven't succeeded yet. But we'll keep trying. To go on our website and find the petition, I think we've got something like 4,000 people have signed it to asking the UK government to.
And they will not move.
But they won't. The government at the moment won't move. But we have to keep working. We have to keep trying, because if you keep trying, one day you'll succeed. Anyway, your next question, Florence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How do you feel about breeding programs in zoos?
Well, you've just answered that already.
No,
we don't.
Look, the problem with zoos is that, they breed lots of animals. And they will tell you that we are breeding these animals for conservation. But the problem is that you cannot breed a lion in a zoo and then take that lion out of that zoo and put it in Africa. Because the lion doesn't know, first of all, where it is. It has never had to hunt before for its life. It's always been fed. And it has no pride that it can work together with. And
it doesn't know the techniques of how to hunt.
Doesn't know how to hunt, doesn't know where to hunt, doesn't know that, how to hunt an impala differently from a buffalo or a zebra or something like that. It's about as stupid as a cow, Myle. All right. They have no knowledge. Animals that are bred in zoos have no knowledge about anything except how to get their food delivered to them by their keepers. So we are very opposed to any kind of breeding of animals in zoos, as if the zoos say this is all for conservation.
Not if it's a predator.
It's not going to work.
If it's a predator, right? The answer is it's not true at all. And the reason they like to breed predators or lions in zoos is because when they get the new babies, when they breed them, the lion cubs, that brings in lots of visitors, and visitors pay money to come and see them. So, it's a way of making more money for the zoo. It does not help lions. Anyway, your next question.
So you've seen the documentary about Christian the lion, right?
Yes.
So do you think lions can like sort of make friends, or are they only just hunting for prey?
Well, okay. Let's put it this way, Myle. Let's pretend that you are born into a lion pride. Okay. So you're a lion cub now. And what you have to do as a lion cub is that you have to sort of fit in with your brothers and sisters and also with all your cousins. And then you have to know your aunts and your uncles and all that kind of stuff. So for a lion cub, it's a very difficult thing to be able to survive because you have to know lots and lots of your relatives, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a lion like Christian, for example, and you put him back in the wild, um, how does that lion survive? Because he doesn't have all those family connections. Myle, I'm sure your family and all that kind of stuff all around you, and they protect you and they help you. But if you put a lion back into the wild that has never had any family in the wild, how does that lion make friends? Very, very difficult.
I'll ask the next one.
All right.
The lion population has been decimated in the last 100 years. What has been the biggest contributing factor to this?
Many, 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 many. I think overall, the largest contributing factor was the expansion of the human populations into what was usually a lion range. Think back thousands and thousands of years ago. There were very few people in Africa, and there was lots and lots of wildlife in Africa. And now it's all completely changed. There's lots and lots of people and hardly any wildlife. And so human population growth has been a major contributor to the decline of lions in Africa.
Could you tell us a little bit about the story of Christian the lion and its significance?
Yes. Okay. Let's tell you about Christian. Christian was a lion cub that was being sold in Harrods department store, that big fancy department store in London.
In London.
And two Australian young men went into that store and they saw that this little lion cub was sitting for sale in the pet department, because in those days you could sell animals in Harrods. And they saw that there was this lion cub sitting in the pet department in Harrods, and they decided to buy this lion cub. And they took it home to their place in Chelsea in London, and they called it Christian. Now those two men, one of them was called John Rendell, and the other one was called Ace Burke, and they had that lion cub living in their flat, and they were working in the furniture shop during the day, and they would take Christian with them, and he would be downstairs in the basement. And then they had an arrangement with the local church, and the vicar would let them, under cover of night, go into the graveyard, and they would exercise Christian in the graveyard at night, and he was a pet. And there's lots of books about Christian, and they had a photographer called Dowrick, and Dowrick used to take a lot of photographs of Christian, and John and Ace were looking after him. As Christian grew up, it became clearer and clearer and clearer that they couldn't keep hold of Christian because he was getting just too big, because lions grow into big animals. And so it was arranged that they didn't want Christian to go into a zoo. So they decided that they arranged with the George Adamson, who was out in Africa, and there was a film called Born Free, and the lion they used in that film was now under the care of George Adamson in Africa. So it was arranged that Christian would be flown out to Africa, and he would also be in the care of George Adamson, and that's what happened. And Christian became semi-wild, and you may have seen the video of when John and Ace went out there and had the big reunion with Christian, who by this time had a wild lioness as a mate. Now, how does that affect lion conservation? Well, it turned, Ace went back to Australia, John stayed in London, and John became a very avid lion conservationist. He cared very deeply about what was happening to wild lions. And he became our patron, one of our patrons. And the photographer, Derek, is one of our trustees now and works with us. He's on our board. Now, John sadly died unexpectedly at the beginning of this year. And we were all very, very sad because nobody was expecting John to die. And when I went up that mountain, Kilimanjaro, when I got to the top, breathless as it was, because there's not much oxygen up there, I gave a little speech about John and about Christian. And I hope from somewhere up in heaven where he now is that he maybe heard that and it made him smile. He was a good man, and owning Christian made him a lion conservationist. And he also did a lot of good going around telling people how much we have to preserve lions. So Christian, in his short lifetime, did a lot of good.
Christian is an ambassador.
Yeah, he is.
He is an ambassador for lions.
Just like you guys
Just like you guys.
Yeah, he was an ambassador for lions. Yeah.
What kind of lion do you think is your favorite and why?
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Look, when I was in Botswana and I worked with lions for 12 years there in Botswana, my favorite lions, because lions all have different personalities, all right? It's like, when you guys go to school and you sit in your classroom and you've got all those kids around you, you say, well, don't like that one, I don't like that one, I do like that one. And so lions have very, very strong personalities. And they're all individuals. And if you get to know them, like, I was privileged to do because, I spent so much time with them, I got to know each and every one of those lions in the prides that I worked with. And yes, I did have my favorites. My favorites were always the ones that started out as little runts in the litter, little tiny cubs, and they didn't do so well in the beginning. But still they grew up and they grew better and they became big, powerful lions. Those were always my favorites. The little guys that didn't have all the advantages and were, sometimes they had the other cubs in their litter or something like that fighting with them, and they always had to go, ooh, ooh. Those are my favorites.
I don't have any questions left.
Okay, I've got a couple more.
Okay,
So
go on.
How fast is the average adult lion?
How fast?
How fast? Well, Florence, lions are huge. They're very big and they're very muscular. All right. So a lion can run maybe 40 kilometers per hour. Sounds fast. But they can't keep it up because what lions do is they're not running animals. What they do is they sneak up on their prey. They use grass and trees and things like that to keep themselves hidden so the prey can't see them. And then they make a quick short run and they try and catch animals that way. But the other thing that lions do is they work together. So that one lion will sneak up this way, and another lion will sneak around the back, and another lion will go this way, and all that kind of stuff. So what they do is they work together, and they hunt their prey as a group. So they don't need to be fast, because they work as a team.
How would the world be impacted if lions were to become extinct?
Well, there's been a lot of work done on this. And what will happen is that Africa has lots and lots of predators. I mean, they have leopards, they have hyenas, they have jackals, they have caracals, they have there's all kinds of animals out there trying to prey on the wildlife species in Africa. Now, if the lions were supposed to go or going to go, what you do is you take off the top of the head of all those predators. So what you get is a lot of small predators that can still prey on the animals, but all the big animals that lions prey on, including zebras, giraffes, even elephants, buffaloes, okay? No, those animals won't have any predators being able to keep their populations in control. So what we will see if lions go extinct is a complete change in the whole biodiversity of the African savanna. Some animals will be preyed on and their populations kept down. Other animals will not have any predators, so their populations will go up. It will it will completely change the whole situation.
And not in a good way, because a lion is called an apex predator, which means, as Peter was just saying, he's at the top of the food chain. So, if he's not there anymore, those ones that he preys on, the lion preys on, they won't have anybody chasing them. So they will more and more of those, and so it impacts. So it would be a very bad thing if we lost our lions.
I'd say if we do lose our lions, animal Hunger Games.
Yeah, because I mean, lions. The thing that you must realize, Myle, is that the whole evolution of African animals over hundreds of thousands of years depended on lions being present, because everybody wants to avoid a lion. So animals became faster, they saw better at night, and things like that. Lions have had a huge impact on the whole diversity of African wildlife.
Actually, lions have had an impact on human beings as well, because going back a very, 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 very long time ago, when lions were in Europe, even wild, then man had to learn how to defend himself against lions. So he had to learn how to create tools and weapons to defend himself, and he had to learn how to make wheels so they could get away faster. So lions have had and still have a huge part to play in life, and we must do everything we can to make sure that when you guys grow up, that we've still got wild lions.
What does the lions teach us?
Well, they teach you how to work in a team to begin with. Lions are team players, massive team players, and they look after each other. You know, lions live in prides, and there will be a structure to that pride, and they're very loyal to each other, and they learn together. And the females, when they have their cubs, once the cubs grow up a little bit, then there'll be one of the lionesses will look after the cubs, a bit like a play school or a creche, while the other females go off and do other things. So
Hunt.
to hunt mainly, yeah. And as Peter's told you, the lionesses and the lions hunt together, and they learn the techniques together, how to hunt a prey. And that was one that he touched on this when he was talking about how zoo animals couldn't go back out into the wild. I mean, it takes a young cub at least 2 years to learn the techniques, and they learn that from their parents and from the pride members. So how to hunt down a buffalo will be different from how to hunt down a giraffe, and etc., etc. So they learn a huge amount, and they're very majestic. And as Peter knows from his own experience, they actually won't attack you if you don't attack them. Very few of them will. I mean, if you put yourself in their path, you might come in trouble, but they will avoid danger.
I think what lions can teach us is that we need to be able to live within our environment. Lions are very, very clever animals, and they have become so clever because they have lived in their environment for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. What Chris was saying is that lions used to range from Africa to southern Europe to the Middle East, all the way over to India. Okay, lions were very, very successful because they were clever, organized animals. And it wasn't until humans came along that all that kind of stuff was disrupted. Lions now only live in small numbers in Africa, and there is one population in India, in Gujarat province, in the Gir forest. Now, lions everywhere else have been eradicated, but we still somehow have this connection with lions. If you go to Trafalgar Square in London, how many lion statues do you see there? 4. Lions are on every flag that the Queen and now the King display on their castles. Lions are on the front door knocker of number 10 Downing Street. Lions have had a huge impact on our lives because we see them as strong, faithful, loyal, and intelligent. And that is what lions have given to us.
Here's a good one. What's the purpose of a mane on the male lion?
Oh, okay.
Yes, another good question.
Now, you see, among all the cats, okay, lions are the only ones. Now, there's 2 things. There's a funny thing that lions. Show me that lion there, Myle. Okay, the bottom bit, the tail bit. Okay, it's got a tuft on the end of the tail. You see that? No other cat has that little tuft on the tail. We don't know why lions have this. Now, why male lions have manes is, people have been thinking about this for a long time. And one of the reasons is that male lions fight each other a lot. Because, male lions come into a pride and they have to fight the other males that are in the pride to take over the females, et cetera, et cetera. So people think, that the mane protects the neck of that lion where other lions, might want to bite them. The other reason for the mane is that it makes the lion look bigger. Got a lot of hair. And so if a male lion comes across another male lion and the other male says, "Ooh, that's a big guy," he might walk away and not try and fight. But it's like I was saying, it's the only cat species that has that mane. And we think that it is because lions fight each other so much and because they want to look bigger to their opponents. More questions?
I've got one.
Right.
What do lions eat in the wild and in captivity?
In captivity, they eat. Now, you'll be surprised about this, all right? If you have a dog or a cat or something like that, there are companies that make pet food. You can buy this in a supermarket. You go out and you buy a sack of, dog kibbles or cat kibbles or something like that. There's also companies that make lion food, believe it or not, right? Because, they have to feed the lions in zoos, right? So captive bred lions eat whatever is cheap. So you can go out and you can buy something called lion chow if you have a lion in your house or in your zoo or wherever. In the wild, lions eat pretty much everything. When I was working with lions in Botswana, I saw lions eat little tiny birds that they could catch out of the sky, all the way up to huge giraffes. So basically, because the lions are the biggest predator there on the African plains, they eat pretty much whatever they can catch.
Because unlike sort of lions in zoos, and you and I, if a lion doesn't go out and catch something, he's going to starve. So he's got to be what you would call an opportunist. He's got to learn to catch, first of all, and then eat whatever is in his territory.
And I'll tell you something else. Sometimes lions are very naughty. Because what they do is if a hyena or a leopard or some other predator has killed something, the lions will come along and they'll steal it from them, right? Because they know that they can dominate those other predators and take prey away from them. And if an animal dies by itself, lions will come along, they will follow the vultures coming down onto that carcass, and they will say, right, that's mine. I'm going to take it. So lions eat pretty much anything.
They're scavengers as well as predators.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Learn something new every day.
You've got to get what you can get, don't you? If you're living out there, I mean, if you want to not have a hungry tummy, you've got to go and find whatever it is you can get. See, and you just remember what we've already told you. They're very intelligent.
Myle, I'll never forget. In Botswana, I was, when I was working with the lions and sitting with them during the day and all that kind of stuff, They during the day they usually sleep under a tree or something like that, right? And then all of a sudden they would hear something. They would wake up and they would look to the sky, and sure enough, what was happening was that the vultures were coming down on some dead animal somewhere, and somehow, I don't know how, but the lions would hear the vultures coming down out of the sky. Maybe they made some whistling noise or something, as they were coming down. I don't know. But they would wake up and then they would run and follow those vultures because the vultures would guide them to some
Where the
sort of
food
thing
was.
that they could
Yeah, where
scavenge.
the food was. Yeah. Yes, Florence, you got another question.
Mhm. What can we do in the UK to help with lion conservation?
Tell all your friends. Get your schools and your friends and your social groups to help us raise money to help these lions, because what we need is fundraising to be able to go and help them. We've told you about this wonderful project we've got in Africa, and there's 58 villages there just in this one big community that we need to try and safeguard their villages from lions coming in and from them attacking the lions. And we've only got the money to do 4 of those villages at the minute, and there's 58 villages to do. So that alone is huge amounts of money. The more people know about what's happening to lions, the more people know that we've got less than 10,000 left, the more people know that there are less than 5 populations of lions that have got any hope of survival across the whole of Africa. And the more people realize all of that, the sooner we can make things better for lions.
Oh no.
You see, what we would like kids like you to be able to do in the future is to do what I did and people of my age did, is to go to Africa
And see them.
and see a wild lion. And that is getting more and more and more impossible. Myle, how old are you?
I am 9.
9. Okay. So hopefully by the time you're 19, something like that, you will still be able to go to Africa and you will see a wild lion. That is, that's our purpose. What we would like to do is to make sure that kids like you can
And
be
you,
able to
Florence, both of
see,
you.
oh, yeah, is to be able to see the amazing diversity of wildlife in Africa and to see it in a wild state. And for you guys, to be able to see a wild lion.
And to watch them from a distance and not close
Yeah.
up, because we have to let them live their lives.
A wild lion. A really, really wild lion. And to look into that animal's eyes and to say, the reason why we are here in Africa is to see you. And what we have done during our time now, that we are still children, 9, 10 years old, whatever, is that we have made sure that you have survived.
So it's that we've all got to do our bit. Next question.
I think we've got. How many do you have, Myle?
Just one more. What are lions' special skills?
Skills. They are amazing animals. Look, right, Myle. Here we go. Pretend you're a little lion cub. Okay, yeah, like that one. That's actually about the size of a lion when it's born. That size. Okay. Now, what you have to do as a lion that size is you have to grow up and you have to learn a lot of things. First of all, you have to learn who is related to you. In other words, is this a lion that is not in my family and might be dangerous to me? Or, is this a lion that, is part of my family? Second, you have to learn a huge amount of territory. In Botswana, when I was working there, the average lion territory was about 200 square kilometers, right? Huge area. That cub has to learn every single inch of that area. Because the lion doesn't have a GPS, that it can look up and say, where am I, right? It has to know. So it has to know landmarks. It has to know where the water is. It has to know where the prey is. And then also, all of that changes during the wet and dry seasons, because in the wet season, water is everywhere. In the dry season, water is only in a couple of places. And then that lion has to learn how to hunt different kinds of animals because they use different strategies. If you hunt a buffalo, it's very different from hunting an impala. So that lion cub, I mean, you're reading that math book, Myle. That lion cub has to learn that whole math book and a lot more in terms of how to survive, right? Because it has to learn huge amounts of information. Where am I? What's that tree? Where's the prey? Where's the water? Where's this? Where's that? Am I in my territory? Am I out of my territory? How do I get back? It's a huge amount of learning.
And they also have to learn how to keep out of danger. Because if a lion gets hurt, he can't go to the vet. Can you imagine a vet out there? You take a lion goes in, he'd just eat the vet, wouldn't he? So they know that if they get injured, then they're probably going to die. So they have to learn to keep out of danger, which is why the lights work so well to keep lions away from communities, from the villages. They keep out of danger. Next question. Any more questions, or are we done?
Don't think we have any left.
All right.
Wait, I think I've got one more.
Okay.
Go on then.
Okay. How can we, as the next generation, help to prevent lions going extinct?
Well, we've sort of answered that question already, but I think what we need for you guys to do is to realize not only how important lions are, but how endangered they are. And to tell people of your age, and maybe even older than you, and to tell adults that lions are really, really in trouble. And we need to do all we can to save lions. And so therefore, the best thing that we can do is to work together with organizations like ours, LionAid, and to say, right, what we're going to do is we're going to organize people in our schools, people among our parents' groups, people within, let's say, our organizations that parents belong to say, lions are really important to us culturally, and lions are really important to the world, and lions are really important to the African savanna. So therefore, We must do all we can to protect them.
You know, we here at LionAid have got the wherewithal to go out there to Africa as we do and make huge changes that will protect lions. Like that community that we've told you about where we're working with in Kenya, you know, they're promising now that they won't harm a lion because they know that the lions have brought them good things, the lights. But we can only go out and do that if we've got the support of people. So go and tell everybody, because we just need to you know, give us the wherewithal to go out there and keep doing the work. It's really important.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us today.
That's okay. We've enjoyed being with you.
Myle, I have some questions for you.
Go on.
What is that behind you? Is that an aquarium?
That?
Yeah.
No, that's just a cabinet.
Okay. It looked like you maybe have some fish in there or something. Okay. And I love your lion, Myle. Does it have a name?
His name is Rory.
Rory.
Okay, excellent.
That's wonderful.
Well, it's been lovely talking to both of you. Been lovely talking
Thank you
to
so
you
much.
as well, Florence.
Thank you, Florence. Now, if you had a lion like Myle does, what would you call it?
She's thinking about that one.
It really
Anyway,
depends. Like, you have to get a good look before you decide.
Yeah. Okay.
Good
The lion that looks like mine.
Anyway, thank you both. It's been lovely talking to both of you. It's been a
Thank you.
delight to talk with you, and your questions have been excellent, and we hope you've given you a bit more information about lions.
I really enjoyed it.
Excellent.
Thank you, Myle. Thank you, Florence. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.